Hi there, this is Mark Killian. Welcome to my YouTube channel where we're always learning. This week is no exception. We're going to be learning about the oldest instrument known to mankind and womankind. Well, the flute, I hear you say. Yes, this is a flute. It's a vessel flute, otherwise known as an ocarina. What's different between this and a flute? Check it. This has a vessel. You blow in to a vessel that has holes on top of it. This has no vessel. It's a tube. You blow in, air passes straight through, the air has nowhere to party. It's in and out the door. This guy, wind goes in, has a little party inside there. You close off whichever hole you want to make whatever pitch you want, and Bob's your uncle. Now, before we get going, because I have a couple here I'd like to demonstrate to you, and there are different types of ocarinas that have different sounds, different fingerings, different histories. But I would like to just talk quickly about the history. So yes, the flute is the oldest instrument. Flutes were discovered some 60, 70,000 years ago. Ocarinas, 12,000 years is where we have the first ocarina type of instrument that was ever discovered. That's also a long time. My grandmother's almost that old. And that discovery was in... You probably said Mesoamerica. That's what I said. That's what I thought. Mexico, the Aztecs, the Mayans in Guatemala, the Peruvians in the Andes, wherever. But no. First ocarina evidence, China. An instrument called the shun, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. This instrument is basically an ocarina. Only difference is, and I suppose it's an important difference, but it doesn't really affect the sound too much. Instead of blowing into the receptacle, like you do with an ocarina, you blow over the hole that enters the receptacle. So much like you would blow a bottle, you're blowing over it. You're not blowing into it, you blow. And that's what causes the whistle. Whereas in this guy, the whistle is caused by a little thing that is built inside there to divide the air in whatever way so that it creates the whistle. Now, the shun is still in wide use and very popular in China today. But the Japanese have their own version of an ocarina, as do some Europeans. The German Hemshorn, for example, is basically an ocarina. It's a vessel flute made out of goat horn. And so, what's fascinating to me is how does this instrument develop in China that's identical to the ocarinas that developed in Mesoamerica? So many thousands of years ago, long before there was any intercontinental travel possible. It just seems fishy. And so perhaps Christopher Columbus was not the first to discover America, but perhaps the last. Okay, so now let's get to the ocarinas and the music, because that's what we're here for. There are a couple of different types of ocarinas. So we're going to start with the oldest, which is called the Peruvian pendant ocarina. Now, here is one that you're probably all familiar with. Pretty simple. This is an 8-hole. Got 6 on the top and 2 stoppers on the bottom. That's not a stopper. That's just a hole where an escape hole for the air. Here's the fingering chart for that guy. And this is what it sounds like. You can make cool sounds with it. Very limited, very, you're limited to less than an octave. You don't have any chromatic cross fingering to speak of. Well, you do, but it just doesn't really work because these things are not fine-tuned and the pitch is all over the place. This is a bigger version. Again, an 8-hole. You can see it's a beautiful looking instrument. This is from Chile. It's got 2 on the bottom as well. Pretty inexact on the pitching, as most of them are. They're not refined instruments. And so what's cool about these is that they don't sound refined, right? Now, to be fair, there is plenty of archaeological evidence that these flutes existed pre-Columbian in the Americas. Plenty. Just go to the Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City, and I mean, there's literally an entire chamber devoted to musical instruments of the Aztecs and pre-Columbian peoples, like the Olmecs, going back as far as the Olmecs. So there are ocarinas sitting in that museum that are like more than 2,000 years old. They're just sitting there. It's pretty unbelievable. And a lot of them. Technology that was invented all those thousands of years ago that we still use today. So how did this instrument with such impressive historical credentials become such a popular instrument? Well, this naughty man, Hernan Cortes, who caused all sorts of havoc upon Mexico in the early 1500s, came back to Europe after his conquest with a troupe of Aztec dancers and musicians and paraded them all over the courts of Europe. The result of that is that the ocarina became quite a popular instrument. Now, those ocarinas are fairly crude, and so it was really kind of just a toy or something of interest, but it did create a stir. And this Italian bloke, Giuseppe Donati, I think it was middle 1800s, something like that, 1850-ish, saw this, got wind of it, excuse the pun, and decided he was going to build a version of the ocarina that could be played with accuracy and with much more versatility. Now let's go to the instrument that basically Giuseppe Donati came up with. When he first saw this from the Aztecs, he became infatuated with it and wanted to make a proper instrument that he could use in his band or his orchestra. This is called now the transverse, or otherwise known as the sweet potato ocarina. It looks kind of like a sweet potato. And it has usually, this is a 12-hole version. You get a 10-hole version. But you can see there are eight holes there for each of your hands to have 4 fingers, plus over there a double hole and over there a double hole. Those guys have got a double hole in each one. That's to aid in getting the chromatic notes, and then of course 2 stopper holes on the bottom. This is a real instrument. I mean, I can't play this thing to save my ass, but if you could, you'd be able to rattle off. This is basically a chromatic instrument. I mean, people think of this as a diatonic instrument. So that's minor. You can also do major. You can also do minor. Beautiful sound. You can get any note you like. I can't, but here's a fingering chart, and this is how you get any note you want. And there are people, as I say on YouTube, you go and watch people play this thing. They can play Mozart on this thing. It's unbelievable. This thing has been made of clay, porcelain, metal. I've seen metal ones, glass, wood, and of course plastic. This one, I believe, is porcelain. Or maybe it's clay. Fucked if I know. But it's a fantastic instrument and a very serious instrument. Here's a blue one. I don't know what the name of the company is, but this one's a little suckier. And very difficult to finger this one. That's why I'm going a little off pitch there. Always blame the instrument. All right, moving on. So that's the instrument that is kind of the pinnacle of ocarina development, as it were, at least back for those times. The next would be a development from that. Just some geezer took that and said, oh, what if I make that kind of a little easier to play? Bless his heart for that. It's called mountain ocarinas. And I'm not sure he's the one who came up with the system, but he's kind of the most popular. His flutes are all based around the system. So It's called in line because your fingers go off and off and off and off totally in line. It's much less complicated than that one. Here's a chart. So it's also fully chromatic. This is a plastic one. It doesn't sound wonderful, but it's okay. And this guy's actually making a new type of flute based on this. It's a tiny bit bigger, but has a 3-octave range. I don't know that it's released yet, but I think is it called the Coda? I'm not sure. Anyway, here's a link to that because it's an interesting instrument to check out. This basically is a wooden version, not of the inline flute, but of the transverse flute. It's fingered like a transverse flute, although you wouldn't be able to tell because this thing's such a piece of shit to play. It's awful, horribly designed. You know, it's the flute, it's not me. Let's look at quickly, before we look at my shining glory, let's look at these. These are toys. Okay, you've all seen these. These are trinkets. There's it's got 4 holes on the top, 2 on the bottom. And it's a little turtle. Look at that. Isn't that sweet? Now, I unfortunately have no choice but to blow up the thing's arse, which is quite mystifying to me. Great scale, huh? Not. It's really a toy. You're not, it's not a proper instrument really of any sort. This is I got this in Russia. This is a bear. And again, I am forced, because there's no other hole for me to blow into, I'm forced to blow into its arse. I don't get it. Shit is weird, dog. Ouch. I believe I bought this in Russia too. Well, I mean, here's evidence that these things are not really meant to be instruments, is that if you can see, that hole over there is painted over. So it doesn't even work. And again, I have to blow up, what is this thing? A porcupine. I have to blow up the porcupine's ass now. That one doesn't work. And I also have what was a rooster before someone ripped its snout off. But again, I'm blowing up its ass. You know what? I'm done blowing up things' asses. If anyone knows why this preoccupation with like blowing up animals' asses, and this is based on ocarinas that have been found pre-Columbian, but you can find tons of these ocarinas that are thousands of years old. Most of them animals like that. But you're always blowing up their asses. Now, for the flagship, a multi-chamber ocarina. Now this, I used to think was a Mexican-made ocarina, and I was very surprised to learn that it's British-made by a geezer called Langley. I think his name's David Langley. Anyway, this is called a multi-chamber ocarina. What that means is it basically has a dividing line in the middle that separates the left and right chamber from each other. So it's in effect 2 separate ocarinas. Now, this is... You hear that? This side is staying on the note because I ain't lifting my fingers up. Or if I lift my fingers up, it does the same thing, but on opposite sides. If I lift both my fingers up at the same time, both chambers will be playing the same notes. This thing actually has a fingering chart. Check it out. This is based on the English pendant, but it's only a 3-hole. By the way, this Langley instrument dude, I believe he's still around. He makes ocarinas in England, sells them mostly to schools. This I bought at Lark in the Morning and did not come with a book. So I've never known how to finger it. I went and searched on their website, and the only way to find a fingering chart for this beast is to buy their book. So I tried to figure it out myself, and this chart that you see, is what I came up with. If you know better, because I'm just busking here, but if you have a better idea of more notes that you could find on this thing, please let me know. This is all I was able to come up with. Now, all that's cool. It means it's a diatonic instrument. As far as I can tell, I'm not able to get many notes out of it other than what you see in the chart. But what's cool about this instrument for me is not that. Who cares about that? This is what's cool about this instrument, and I'm going to step back a bit to demonstrate it because I have two mics set up here. Stereo, and because there are two chambers doing different things, I'm just going to go in between the two. And what I really love is getting the same note and then bending it. So you can play with that beating when you have, what I was doing there is just, I have the same notes on both sides, and I was just moving one finger slightly off that to alter the pitch of that one, but keep the pitch of this one the same. So the pitch then would start beating, which is a super cool effect. Now, it's a beautiful sound. It doesn't sound British at all to me. This sounds like came right out of Teotihuacan in the Aztec Empire. Now, let's go listen to a track that I used this on. It's a film called La Mission, starring Benjamin Bratt, directed by Peter Braddy's brother. I loved working on this movie, and I was able to explore some Aztec sounds. And this is called Aztec Dance. So let's go take a listen. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode as much as I've enjoyed making it for you. These are unbelievable instruments, and the history that goes, the soul that comes with these instruments. I highly recommend you go and buy yourself one or two of these guys and sit there with a fingering chart, try and figure it out. Super fun instrument to play. And not to mention the cool sounds you can get out of it for your multimedia projects. Please subscribe to this channel. Please share it with your friends. Tell your friends about it. Please like, and please post comments, especially if you know more about anything here than I do, which is very possible. So I will catch you next week. Don't ever stop learning. Ciao, Bella. Okay, mic check. Mic, come in. Mic, hello. Flutes. No chamber. Ocarina. Chamber. Me Hulk. So easy, even a caveman can do it. Is what? Hello? Pregnant. Pause. Okay. Allow me to demonstrate. No bottle. Hi there, this is Mark Killian. So, where were we exactly? Right, where were we? Do it again. Maybe I should clap again, yes. All right, let's clap again, because you're just going all over the place here. Well, let's, you know what, rewind. Oh, let's try that again. Okay, let's do that again, because you just, all right, let's try again. What the fuck are you going on about? Let's just start again. Because you're going a bit crazy. Dwight Underbite. How does my hair look? Anyway, I am blabbering of the elements, as many thousand years old. What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? Just not happening? I mean, are there no words there? Man, sis. Wait a minute. Okie doke. All right. Whew, this is getting tiresome. I'll be back.